Hello, meeting. Welcome those present in attendance, and advise that the meeting will be recorded in accordance with council policy titled Electronic Recording of Council Meeting Policy, meetings of council to assist in the preparation of minutes and ensure a true and accurate account of debate and discussion at meetings is available. We'll now be upstanding for prayers. Prayers tonight will be lined up to go to our church, and then we'll have the spread up.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys. Lord, we thank you that we get to come here and discuss issues, Lord, that are going to influence every person in this community. And I pray, Lord, that for every single person represented in this room, that we would have your wisdom, Lord, to serve the people of this community. Father, I thank you so much, Lord, for the Christian heritage and for the spiritual heritage that's existed in this community for generations. And Lord, I pray that as we make decisions, and as the people around this table make decisions, I pray that it would bring honour and glory to you. Lord, we need your wisdom, we need your grace, and I thank you for every servant, Lord, that's around this table that really does have a heart to serve the people of this community and this town. Bless each one of them, bless the families of the people that are represented. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. We'll say the Lord's Prayer now, just before we begin. So this is how it reads. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now do attendance. Leave of absence is the general manager on personal leave, and Councillor Kay's an apology. And Councillor Wood see it. He's not on personal leave.
You were up for
Now we come to confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Is somebody prepared to move those? Thank you. Councillor Edlin, you want to second them or you want to?
I can second.
Yep, thank you. And you want to ask a question?
I just wanted to note that my question 2 of the last meeting, that it was summarised, and I just wanted to note that I wasn't actually happy with that.
No, that's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Item 3, issues raised by councillors, 3.1, 3.2 and 3.3 nil. 3.4, councillor questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? None? Councillor declarations, I have one on 17 ones, and then
Part 2.
71 part 2, that's what it was, yes. Any other pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests?
Mr. Mayor, under non-pecuniary item 11.2.
7.2, thank you. Any further? No more? We'll go down to 5. I need a motion for item 1, 2 and 3, it's items 5, 6 and 7, actually. We'll do that on block, and somebody prepared to move that motion. Thank you, and seconded Councillor Pleasant. Any queries on that? I'll put the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. And now go down to the workshops. We had 3 of them, 29th of April, 5th of May, and then 13th of May. Is somebody prepared to, oh, no, we don't need those, we've already moved and seconded. Is there any questions on any of those? If not, we'll go down to the mayor's appointments. There was one there on the Department of State Growth that didn't happen. Because one of the people was coming in, stood for Parliament and wasn't able to come, so. Is there any questions on any other meetings?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the meeting on the 14th of the 5th with Tom Woodman.
Tom Wootton, he was down and was talking about, he's in northwest, that's right. Yeah. In tourism, and he was just basically talking, he was down here talking to others during the day, and caught up with Scott myself while he was down here, so it's not new to talk about other than just talk about general things that, with tourism, and we're discussing things like Dismal Swamp and the Iron area and a few others as well. I wanted to see what that was all about. Anything else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering how the Smithland Hockley Dog Park opening went.
Oh,
Was there many there?
would have been around 25, 30, probably close to the same amount of dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, went off really well, and it's rather cold. And we went for a stroll, and then we went into the park after, and Daniel did a good job actually.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody seemed pretty happy.
Mr. Mayor, the time of conservation, members, have you got anything to report? I do know that there was a bit of rumblings about the bridge over the bridges and the weather parks are going to do that. Was there any discussion about that?
Not this meeting, it was the meeting before, and they didn't intend to do anything with that, because it's hardly ever used, and so for the amount of use was there, they believed there was far more important issues to spend money on in that after Parliament area than that. It's only on the edge of the group that we're on. It's really not too much to do with it anyway. No, it wasn't meeting before. Anything further? If not, I'll move along to 7. And we have the petition here. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, so the petition received from Jan Hardy on behalf of the Stanley Chamber of Commerce is in relation to the playground at Godfrey's Beach stand. So the process with this petition, it didn't call for a public meeting, but the process for this is it's tabled at this meeting, and then council must consider it within 42 days, so it will come back to the next meeting. So the appropriate course of action would be for it to find its way onto a workshop discussion between now and the next meeting to look at how council will consider the matter. So it might be appropriate that if someone would move and second to just note in this petition tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Holliday. Councillor Edlund, any further for or against? Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to observe and I'd like to point out the statistics from the meeting and hope council takes note of the fact that from the numbers presented, the outside circle had 25% signed the petition, that's a quarter. Smithton, 30 people who give the address of Smithton is 33%. The other district areas are around about 21%. So that's 3/4 there. And Stanley residents, there was about 21% of the people in the petition signed. So if that could be noted, those percentages when it comes to the discussion.
Thank you. Any further speakers? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. We now come down to 8, which is the public questions. Your statement, the council encourages community participation by providing opportunity for public questions on activities of council. Councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect, and we ask members of the public to apply similar standards in delivering the council. As the chairperson of the meeting, it is my responsibility to judge if a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I intend to provide people with the opportunity to ask 2 questions each, and if time permits, may allow more. Please provide your name and contact details and summary of your question on the forms provided so that if we need to contact you, we can. If you have a question, please come to the microphone, state your name and ask your questions. Are there any questions?
My name's Melissa Wells. I just have a question in relation to an advertisement that was in the Advocate a few weeks ago. Is the Smithton Council councillors and mayor aware that there is a tender from the Tasmanian government for the design and construct of Grant Street, Smithton?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I understand that there's a tender and construct to put probably the road and infrastructure into some of the previously subdivided lots along the end of Grant Street. That was in the paper in recent weeks. That's as much as council know about it, that's in the development team. But those lots of existing zoning, existing subdivision approval, I guess, by being a residential lot.
Yep. So I actually have the tender documents. I have got a copy of the tender documents, and it states that in them tender documents that they will interact with the Circular Head Council in regards to that, and the area for where the road is going to go goes down along the side of the block on Grant Street that was listed as public land and removed and sold. So now, how does the council feel that that having dairy cattle on it, and being told by Councillor Norm Berkery that, I'll just get my quote from the paper, that it is 2 factors ruling it out for dwellings were the large transmission lines through the middle and a dolomite quarry blast zone at one end. So if that ruled out subdivision on the Grant Street block, 15.8 hectares that council owned, why is it that the Tasmanian government is now subdividing that exact same area and is going to build houses on it? How does the council feel about that, and do you have an issue about that?
I think Matthew more or less answered the question when he said it was already subdivided in previous. It's already been through the subdivision process.
So is the council now going to allow for buildings to be built on that land?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Those lots are in the residential zone and would be subject to the residential provisions and any of the codes that will apply. So the council have to assess those applications when they come in. So yeah, the council will deal with those applications when they're received.
I just find it a little bit surprising that the council tries to tell us that you can't subdivide it, and then the Tasmanian government has put out a tender document for it to be subdivided. I just find that quite confusing. But anyway, I will tender these documents to you so that if the councillors or other people would like to look at them.
Thank you.
That's some quick questions. I'll allow someone else up and then this time I've got a couple more.
Yep, it's Grant Walsh from Balfour. I've got also a question on the Grand Street property. I assume none of the council staff are qualified legal practitioners. I guess that would be a true statement to make. The law firm Walsh and Day emailed on the 19th of March this year legal advice that the Grand Street land was still public land and the council authorised the general manager to sell this land. This is from the law firm Walsh and Day, from qualified solicitor. Now, you received this email, a month before the public meeting. Now, this email states that Grand Street meets the legal requirements of public land as set out in the Local Government Act, and this is 1 month before this public meeting. This legal advice states that Grand Street was public land when leased to Agritas on January the 1st, 2015, and remains public land while under lease until October 2020 when council terminated that lease. This information again is 1 month prior to the public meeting, and it was sent to you, Matthew. So, Matthew, as stated, you received this legal advice from Walsh and Day a month before the public meeting. But at that meeting, the General Manager claimed he could not answer my questions that Grand Street met the requirements of public land. How can council staff state this at a public meeting when a qualified solicitor has made you well aware of these requirements 1 month before? That is my question.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I don't believe that letter was addressed to me.
You never read the letter?
I have read the letter.
I actually have a copy of the letter here from Walsh Day lawyers.
Melissa, please sit down. That's a question.
But I would go on to say that the letter asserts, it's addressed to the General Manager, it went on to assert the position that they were inquiring on behalf of their client.
Yep.
And that was the view that they put forward.
Yes.
Councils also had legal review of the matter, and
why haven't they tabled that legal review of the matter prior to the public meeting?
Council had legal review of that matter following the public meeting. It was tabled at.
The question is.
You asked the question.
The question here was from Walsh and Day, Andrew Mahill. Now, he sent this email to the council 1 month prior to this meeting, public meeting. Now, that clearly sets out that Agritas has leased this land, and this lease was done when the Grand Street property was public land. It was done on the first.
Question, Tom.
It's not a statement.
No, but Matthew, I'm just asking. Okay. The question there is, why wasn't that legal advice considered?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's not legal advice to council. It was a letter on behalf of their client asking a question of the council. Council's gone through the process with the public meeting, tabled information, presented council's position on that at the last meeting, which is in the minutes, which council's stated.
Yep.
And so that's how council's considered that matter.
Okay. The General Manager contacted Ray and Partners, this is question number 2, after the public meeting and states council have made an error in selling the land and the sale may have to be reserved. That was on the Ray and Partners, correct on that? Now, at the next council meeting, the General Manager claims that Ray and Partner, on the information received from him, that council have acted correctly. The email sent by the GM deliberately fails to include legal questions he has received a month prior from the law firm Walsh and Day. Why has the GM not included this information he has received from a qualified solicitor to Ray and Partners?
Through you, Mr Mayor. The legal advice sought that you referred to was in relation to council's decision made on the public land list, so that was asked to be reviewed, so that documentation was sent to the lawyers for
But it
their
didn't
review.
include the fact that the Agritas had leased the land when it was public land. That information, this is what I'm asserting, was deliberately missed from that information provided to the
What's the actual question?
The question was, why wasn't that information of the lease by the public land being leased passed on to Ray and Partner? That's a clear requirement under section 178(2) of the Act. Why wasn't that? I've emailed the General Manager this information and he has refused to answer it.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the legal advice that was sought provided all the information that council considered when making its decision on the public land list, and that was what the legal advice was asked to
The
review.
information provided to Rain Partners is what you put forward to council on the 21st of November 2019. There was no mention whatsoever of that.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, that's a question.
That's the question.
So,
Just to be clarified, the question is why wasn't the information that the land was listed as public land under a lease put towards Rain Partners to clarify? Do we understand each other on that question?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that was all that information was in the public land list that was considered.
You sent the response to the list of wells that you sent to from the.
okay, that's a question. So
Yeah.
thanks for that.
Yeah.
If we can have those questions so we can.
Also, I've got to go back to Balfour, so hopefully you don't think I'm rude, but it's a long drive.
No worries.
If I can leave, that's okay. Cheers.
Any further? Yeah, thanks.
James West. My question goes back to my question on notice served on you guys about the parking situation. Now, I've read your reply and I've also received a written reply. Thank you very much. Now, it's been stated that we should resolve this matter by community education, be it social media, Chronicle or whatever. Now, in the last week, I personally have observed, again, the taxi ranks outside of Woolworths in particular. Anything parks there except taxis. And the poor old taxi driver's got to park on the yellow strip line and, you know, hope for the best that he can get his passenger in, whatever. Now, people have suggested,
This is question time.
this is the question. Now, the suggestion was that we as civilians take photographs and report it to council. Council has got no bylaws. They can't do a thing. We go to the police can't do a thing if they're there. Now, what do we do about it? This is my question. What do we do about it? Because taxi drivers are being abused by people when they get asked by a civilian to move on. Disabled people are driving around, trying to find a parking spot. No go. Now, my question is, which authority is going to enforce this, if anything? And who is going to provide this education to the public that everybody gets a fair crack of the whip and can do their business, take half an hour and go? Staff of the businesses are still parking on the half-hour areas.
Through you, Mr Mayor, staff have engaged with the Smithton Police around what options and police can take action if reported to them and aware of the situation. And we're working with the police to do some public education, which is probably not going to be just one single ad or article, but it'll be a series of information in the community, particularly wanting to highlight the importance of disability parking spaces to people in that community. Sharing we might have a local advocate who might be able to share a story about why they're important. So it's certainly something that we want to continue to educate. I don't think it's going to solve itself overnight, but I think if the whole community take that on board, that it is something that can be achievable to do the right thing by people and abide by those parking restrictions. So that's the strategy that we're looking to put in place. Mr Mayor.
I did have a call from the advocate today, and there will be an article in the paper tomorrow about it as well. And so it is an issue that I know.
It's a serious issue, Darryl.
I know it is an issue that does need to be addressed, and we're trying, but it does take a bit of time, unfortunately. Any further questions?
Am I allowed another question?
I'll give you another question.
So, in light of the recent issues surrounding the treatment of women in the government, can you confirm that all staff or councillors are holders of a current, appropriate and classified working with children and vulnerable people clearance, and that all councillors, staff and others being contractors have a national police check that is not older than 12 months old? And has the council recently or in the past 2 years received any, what's this got there? Received any complaints from staff members or councillors or members of the public regarding inappropriate behaviour towards women staff members or women in the public? This might include bullying, assault or sexual harassment.
I'm not aware of any, I can't speak on behalf of our staff.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's quite a bit of detail in that question. I think we need to take that on notice to provide a response.
Yep, no worries, thank you. And then the last one is, I noticed in last month's agenda that we are now getting the Tarkine Progress Group and the Arthur Pyman Conservation Group minutes in the closed meeting. And there was also a point in there about a MOU with the Tarkine Progress Group, Memorandum of Understanding, I presume. So why is that in the closed meeting? And why has that process changed? Because the minutes from the Tarkine Progress Group, I can only find 3 lots of minutes from 2017 and 2018. They're not very consistent with their supplying of minutes to the council. And all other minutes are available on their web page and also the council site. So why now are they being held in the closed meeting?
So with minutes received by other organisations, we quite often receive them in confidence. Maybe they haven't been confirmed through their committee yet. So there's a difference between the minutes of council committees, which will go into the council open section, and minutes we've received from other organisations who aren't, who council isn't the controlling authority, so to speak, of them. So they're held within the closed section of the meeting agenda.
So the Arthur Pyman Conservation one, why is that in the closed?
It's not a committee of council.
But it's never usually been in closed minutes before, it's always been in the open minutes. Why has the sudden change of procedure?
I thought that they had already, but they might not have been, I stand to be corrected with that.
We have to check on that one.
Yeah. We'll need to take it on notice and check it out.
And so about the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding with the Tarkine Progress Group, will that be made public or?
I'll need to check again with that to see whether it can, whether it can't. I'm not sure what's in the MOU, whether it can be stated what it is and what. I'm not sure on that, to be quite honest.
Just in the past, some of the Tarkine Progress Group's actions and stuff hasn't been the best for the community. Shree Minerals, the Stanley Wharf fiasco with the Greenlands boats and the cattle and things.
There were any questions on this?
No, that's the reason as to why I'd like to know if it's
Okay.
not in public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to 9 and 9 and 2 is nil. We haven't got any planning authority items, so we head into 11.1.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, there's a report for the swell entry fees for consideration for adoption from the fees from the 1st of July this year. So since swell opened, there hasn't been any change or increase in the entry fees. That's over 2 years of operation, 2 years since it's opened. So the report contains some fee increases which were sort of based on a 2 to 3% sort of CPI or 3% CPI. Because of rounding, some have gone up less, some have gone up a bit more to maintain some nice round numbers. So there's just a slight addition to the recommendation to adopt the new entry fees to swell commencing 1 July as per Appendix A, with the correction to the family ticket, just to explain that that should be for dependent children under the age of 18, not under 16 as is currently in that appendix. So with that, I'll present those 2 recommendations for council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Is somebody prepared to move the recommendation?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Woodward. Second, Deputy Mayor. Is there any discussion, councillors?
I'd just like to add, Mr Mayor, that in the conclusion of the report, entry fees have been at the same rate for 2 years, and it's appropriate that an increase is applied to keep pace with CPI, and it's just, I just might add a positive to our wonderful building down there and our swimming centre. It's just so great to see families and over 200 young people in there that are learning to swim, and it's just such a great facility for young and old. So it's just good to have this report and see the community involved in it and using it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 11.2, Animal Management Policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before we start, as you can see on the board, there's a second recommendation that's been added since the agenda has been published. To cover off on that, there's been some further discussions, quite fruitful discussions with the Smith and Vet over the last few days. And so it's additional recommendation to the original, which was to adopt a policy that we engage with the Smith and Vet Clinic around updating the current MOU and including options for improved. Sorry, can we add a four before the word improved there? For improved after-hours service provision in partnership with Council to be presented at a future meeting. So those discussions have commenced with the Smith and Vet, but there's probably a bit more.
Including options for.
Sorry, thank you. More detailed discussion required to knock that out.
Oh.
Okay, yep. It's gone back.
No, you haven't.
No. Before improved.
Options for improved. Yeah, we have it.
That's it.
And so those discussions relate back to also the recommendations that form part of the body of that report, in that there can be improvements made to current processes, practices to utilise a better after-hours call facility, so that when someone calls in after hours, they actually speak to a person rather than having to punch in a number and then potentially leave a message. That would resolve a lot of the probably recent feedback that we've received with regards to after-hours inquiries. The inclusion of a after-hours drop-off point at our pound, both those options were to the Smith and Vets, and they were fully supportive of those options as well. And then if we can strike an agreement with the vet clinic to then also see if they can assist with any after-hours inquiries that wouldn't be emergencies. That would be a third prong to that improvement to current practice. So I'll put that policy and associated guidelines to Council for their consideration.
Thank you, councillor. Somebody prepared to move the recommendation?
Mr. Mayor.
That's the mayor, second.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Blizzard. Any speakers for or against?
I'll speak to it for it. I'll be speaking for the motion. I just think it's good that we've actually listened to the people out there and got the feedback, and we've actually taken it on board with the decisions we're making. I think with the MOU, the defence will help that situation too. So I think it's a really good motion. Should be able to go forward from there.
Yeah, I concur with the Deputy Mayor. I know there's been some discussions from some with the vets as well, and the actual ongoing, ongoing consultation there, for an outcome that's just obviously caused some angst and heat within our community. Has got to be a positive. So I congratulate the staff for moving down this path, and ask for everyone's support and motion.
Thank you.
I certainly support it, Mr. Mayor. just wondering whether I can throw a curly one in there about the stray dogs being taken to the pound. Is that locked in stone, or can that be another position where they could be taken to? My thoughts are at the new off-lead area with a small section there, that's a no.
To really risk them there, I'd strongly suggest not. While it would be a secure environment for a dog not to escape from, doesn't mean that somebody else wouldn't be able to go in there and see if there's a dog that they like, that they may well choose to take it home with them. At least with a dog at large, if someone captures that, takes it to the pound, it's then secure, and then council officers can then try and trace the owners of that dog and reunite them. Whereas if it was left in, I guess, an open environment, any Tom, Dick or Harry could come along and say, oh, I don't mind a look at that dog, I might take it home for myself. There's also really well known issues in larger urban areas that if people quite often just leave their dogs in dog parks, go to work and then pick them up on the way home, and that's a bit of a scourge for councils in larger areas. Potentially that could encourage that, and the issues caused from that are then if the dog's there and unattended, then it creates a nuisance from howling, barking, digging, all those types of things. So it wouldn't be a wise move to do that. If we've already got a pound facility, I would probably suggest that we utilise that, bring it up to scratch to ensure it's secure, and that would be an appropriate drop-off facility for out of hours.
So someone from the public can go to the pound at any time over, say, for example, over the weekend when the officers aren't here, and have access to the pound in a certain way?
We're looking at various options for that. A simple one would be similar to like an Airbnb, where you might go and you key in a pad to get the keys out so you can get access. They would have to contact the after hours number, get a passcode that would then unlock the door. They can push the dog through, locks behind them. We know we've got a dog because they've called a number,
Yep.
And then the dog is secured. So yeah, we're looking at various options for that to move that forward, but they should be quite low cost.
Yep. Okay, thank you. You explained it very good. Thanks, Ashley.
Councillor, I disagree with some of the comments Ash made. We've got a central area, convenient. You're going to spend money over at the pound. We've got an area down there in the dog park, fence off a little bit. You can put them in there, people can take them in. You're saying that someone might come and take the dog. If the dog's wandering around the street, they can pick him up and take it home too if they like the dog. Can't agree with you on that. I believe that a small fenced off area with a small amount of shelter would be suffice. There's water in there, and that should be something we put in there Saturday morning, pick it and have a look on Friday. So I think you should explore the dog pound, the dog park more for that, because I believe it's central and it's convenient and it doesn't cost the people to get the dog out if it's their dog.
It's probably not part of the motion now, because I think that's going to be discussed at a later time, but I think it's more a better time to discuss this is when we're going to have an MOU, because that's when we're going to be dealing with a lot of these issues as well.
Mr. Mayor, that's where you come from. We're talking about providing a temporary for unattended dogs.
Yeah.
The officer said they're going to do it over the pound. Costs money to get it out of the pound. Here you've got a facility with just a small cost, could provide a temporary where people can go and pick up their dog if they sit in there. Someone else sees that dog in there unattended, they can put it on Facebook and it'll probably get picked up. It's got to be considered.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And step it back. Okay, we'll move on to 11.3, animal fees, control fees.
Sorry, I'm just scrolling through myself. Bear with me. Oh, I'll get there with you, sorry. So we do have updated fees, as I hope as per our workshop discussions. Did the best that I could. Sorry, there's 4 key areas that we have considered. Here we go. Clarifying assistance dog, small increases just to, I think, probably similar to the swirl, just to make sure that we get the ratios correct with the current fees. So recent amendments have meant that they're a little bit out of step, so they're not quite 50% of one or 100% of the other. So just general roundings up to achieve that equality. We have increased the licence to keep several dogs, so kennel licence, quite substantially. Current fee wouldn't cover costs of inspections and reporting at this point in time. So we have increased that to ensure that we cover our costs. And then increases with regards to, I guess, penalties, so impoundment fees. So a separate line item there for impoundments over weekends and public holidays. And also the per day occurrence with regards to current impounding fees. So they're the major changes there. So put that forward to council consideration.
Thank you very much. Prepared to move the recommendation.
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Roldager. Seconded. Councillor Hanna. Any further discussion? We discussed this pretty well a year ago. Nothing further, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. 11.4, revised LGAT annual general meeting motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors would be aware of the original motions that Council moved and discussions that since been had from feedback from the GAT in relation to just a bit more flexibility in how the wording is to allow some further negotiation on reinstating the road funding model that we've been pushing for a few years now. So that's just to make a revision to that to allow it to go forward to the GAT. So present that for Council's consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Roldager.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion? Again, it's not a lot different to what we had before. We've just tied it up so that the GAT can do what needs to be done with the recommendation should it get through at the LGAT annual meeting. And general. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. 12.1, financial reports.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you, we have the financial reports for the period ending 30th of April 2021. On page 134, your agenda, we have 22 in total for the first home owners grants. As at the end of April, with no applications received during the month. We also have the closing funds for special committees. In terms of the profit and loss or comprehensive income statement, we're currently on a surplus of 1.1 million compared to the budget loss of 1.1. And that'll move down in the next 2 months as most of council's income has been received in the form of rates, etc. for the last period of time. So maybe a small amount of dividend and the last instalment of the financial assistance grants will be the 2 big lots of income still come in, but it will only be expense payments from here on in. We have current community equity of a net figure of 226 million and a current bank balance of 13.9 million as well. In terms of rates uncollected, we've currently got 1.93% compared to 3.01
at the same time last year. And in terms of some of the debtors, some money that's owed to council, got 290,000 compared to 364 at the same time last year as well. We just have the bank reconciliation of investments growth after that. The only other thing is that on the 31st of May we'll be having our interim audit. So the Pro, as part of Crow Hallworth, are our auditors this year, which they have been for the last 2 years. So they'll be up on site on the 31st of May, 1st and 2nd of June as well to do their interim audits prior to the end of the financial year. So I'll present a report for council consideration, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Councillor Riley Harris, move it. Second it. Councillor Woodward. Any discussion or any comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Quarterly financial reports.
I might just present this one for council's consideration, Mr. Mayor, take any questions. It's just the quarterly reports for the period of 31st of March 2021. It's a fair bit of detail. So.
Are there any questions on this for a start? If not, is somebody prepared to move the recommendation? Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second it. Councillor Plosky. No discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 12.3, Senior Management Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to highlight a few things there. The Breathe Well program, we have 9 participants who will be completing the program at the end of May. So this is a smoking cessation program, and it's still open for new participants until the 1st of July. Forward notice of the Charts Festival this year will begin on the 3rd of September through to the 4th of October. If you like barbecues, tomorrow is the day for you. There's a community barbecue tomorrow evening to welcome all new and older arrivals to Circular Head. So that's a great opportunity to meet some of the new people in our community and encourage as many watching on YouTube to come along. And it's Volunteers Week, and they're also having a barbecue at a place to be advised, Windara. So that's Volunteers Week this week. There's a report on Youth Fest and Youth Week, and I understand the Friday night youth event was quite a success with over 300 people between 12 and 24 who attended, so that was a great night there. There's some photos there of some of the works in recreation facilities, painting around golf goalposts and the new basketball scoreboard at the Swell Indoor Centre, which I'm sure will be appreciated by all the users of that facility. And also photos there of the East Esplanade Foreshore project. Out of community and recreation, then we've got emergency management. We did have a COVID testing bus in Smithton recently, and we've also had wastewater testing for COVID fragments in Smithton on a regular basis. So that I understand is occurring and will continue to occur for some time. The generous donation of hand sanitizer has been received from Southern Wild Distilleries, and that was across the northwest coast. I understand communities were donated the hand sanitizer, so that was a very generous gift from that company. And tourism-wise, I think we're still going fairly well for domestic tourism. Talking to the tourism manager the other day, that things are still tracking along pretty well, but there's some reports on different things in there. Other than that, I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Questions, first question being, could council or community staff could present a marketing and communications plan for Circular Arts, which is to be held in September, please? Because one of the things I personally found that last year was the marketing and the communications could have been done better, and I'd like to have a look at what they're proposing this year.
I'm sure our manager will take that on board.
Maybe just bring it to a workshop and just say this is our plan, and we're going to communicate with the people and the schools, etc. The other question I'd like to ask, observed from the photo of the basketball school box, I can't see where the circulated logo is there, so we were a sponsor on that. And also, there was some belief that when we give the grant, they were going to come back to us with the difference in the grant. Never had any update on whether they're going to be able to pay the money back for the school board that we loaned them to the June.
I don't believe that it was a loan.
No, Mr Mayor, just point of order, is there was no, in the motion, the resolution that was passed by council, there was no thought of them having to pay that money back, because that facility belongs to council.
It was talked about.
But that was the understanding of the council resolution. If you'd like to go back and check it.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, I know you're right.
I'd like to see that check, because my understanding was they were going to ask for a grant and try and repay council the money, as which the Giants Football Club got the amount for their scoreboard. That was where the discussion was at. If you can just check, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but my understanding was that they were going to negotiate.
It was talked about, but in the end, it wasn't used into the motion, in my opinion, but we can check it. I'm happy to check it. I'll like councillor Arthur. I'm not always right. Any further discussion on any of, there's a lot of information there, I know, a lot of it is only information. I encourage as many people to be there tomorrow as possible, and I'm told that a lot of our people from Greens is going, and so Greens have put some stakes up as well as some sausages as well. Councillor Woodward.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment on the East Esplanade foreshore project, the new walking track that has been put down there, and the work that's been done there has been really good from the Works Plus team. I don't think we call them Works Plus, but it's
Works and Services.
Thank you. Works and Services. They've done a great job there. They've put a new grass area right along where they pulled up the old track. They've put new exercise equipment, and well done to the team. They've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further?
I just want to make a comment on the youth week. I think that was a fantastic, from feedback I'm hearing, I think it was a fantastic outcome. 300 youth out there. I didn't get to go because I wasn't quite young enough, but we can't help that sort of thing. But I just want to congratulate the team that put that together and chill for the work they've done there.
In fact, I think we ought to, as council, we ought to send a letter to Chill congratulating them for what they did on that. They did do a fantastic job, and we probably could, as councillors, that we actually write a letter congratulating them for the effort that they put into this. Anything further? If not, is somebody prepared to move the recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, councillor Woodward. Seconded. Councillor Edlund. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Was there any questions on the letters that come in, the correspondence? Did you ask that? I'm sure not. No? All right, we'll go on to 13, minutes of committees. There's 2, 4, 6 of those. Somebody prepared to move that for a start? Thanks, councillor Harris, seconded.
Yes.
Councillor Edlund. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. First one is Chittick. Anything to add to that, councillor Edlund?
Only that we have had a meeting since, and that things are progressing well with the workforce development plan, and that the team have done a great job pulling that off. And many thanks to the industry reps and people outside, because recruiting someone and that process is actually quite time consuming, but we really appreciate the support we've had from people outside council, because we realise workforce development implies that it's everybody. So we will be communicating soon a bit more about that and what we think that we can achieve and how we would like to involve everybody, all industries, schools, and they are our future workforce and the current workforce. So in that, we've also got a couple of other things going on, including the 2610 grants we're expecting to hear back from, and the mile truck will be in town for the University College, so they're coming to
That's
town
good,
for
yeah.
Careers Week. It's Careers Week, 17th to the 22nd. So there's a lot happening in the check space, and if anyone has any questions or wants to understand more about that, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to ask council, the project officer, have you made a decision on the project officer with the funding?
Not yet.
Not yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else on the check? If not, we'll go to the Heritage Centre. Councillor Ash, is anything else?
No, everything's going well, waiting in anticipation, but visitor numbers are up. Very gratifying to see the way that committee's working together with the volunteers.
Fantastic. There's two of those, so I assume that you're referring to both of those minutes?
Yep.
Okay, select advisory committee meeting, last time we went to Stanley. Talk about that at all, councillor Blizzard, I presume?
Oh, well, we talked a little bit about that last bit, actually. It's, that was a good, like all those meetings, are good to hear from the ones on the ground. There's a couple of the items that they raised are going through the budget process on this morning. So they're sitting in the budget process to see them around the ground and some cupboards, etc. So, yeah, it's like all usual operation to go to people's own backyard, if you like, and have a chat to them in their own environment.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Road safety partnership. Councillor Harris, you got anything else there?
I think the minutes will be just to reiterate what's as far as some of the issues that are in our district at the moment, Mr. Mayor. As you can see there, the Forest General Store is probably a major issue at the moment. I think we'll probably have to have a look at that yellow line. There's some purple parking areas that cause I suppose the vision not to be there at the four ways, so that's probably one of the issues that was raised and I wasn't aware of, so probably something we need to work through pretty quickly.
Okay, standing town hall. It's okay, he's not here tonight. Is there any questions? Any of that then? If not, we'll go to our last lot of public questions.
Just before we do, Mr. Mayor,
Sorry, yep.
just before we do, sorry, in the 560 pages, I didn't realise I missed the report that I wanted to ask a question on. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So page 226 of the 10-year infrastructure pipeline from the state government. There's 3 projects that are in Superhead. There's Stewart Plains, Robins Island, and the third one's Dutch Mills out of Edith Creek. I was just wondering, it's $25 million, wondering if you had any more information on that?
No.
Construction?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. We probably should check that actually, because I'm not sure what Dutch Mill got clear out there at all. And what, I don't know. But they're right, they're doing it, I think they'll check. that
In reading the report, Mr Mayor, I was just, that they were pointing out some of the infrastructure spends by private and government there, so they might have been just noting that these are ones in the wind that money's going to be spent by private enterprise.
could well be.
That's the way I sort of read it, but let's find out.
That's my understanding of that infrastructure project pipeline. They're identifying a whole range of projects from a whole range of stakeholders that are on the drawing board, so to speak, where that investment might be.
They didn't put more in.
But if there is government funding in there, we should be aware of that in our area, so, you know, it's a good point to mention. But we can check it out. So no questions then, and nothing else. We need a motion that council resolve by absolute majority of the matters listed below be considered in closed. Deputy Mayor, seconded, Councillor Woodward. Put the motion, all those in favour? It's carried. 15.2, closure of meeting to resolve confidential matters.
Yeah, we're the closed meeting is, I've come to 16 now, but 20, is this what we have?
Page 254.
Oh, press